The fourth season of Mathiew Weiner's TV show Mad Men begins as an illusion of a fresh start. On the surface, Don Draper and his colleagues at the newly formed Sterling Cooper Draper Prize seem to be entering a new chapter in their careers and personal lives. Don is single. Both Betty and Roger are settling into their own second marriages, Pete and Trudy are expecting a baby, and we finally get to meet Megan. Yet, as the season unfolds, it becomes clear that this clean slate isn't for everyone. While some characters dazzle and quite literally shine, others are haunted by their pasts and, despite the appearance of change, find themselves struggling with internal conflicts. And they feel blue. So blue. Many Mad Men fans refer to Betty as icy cold or Ice Queen because of her emotionally distant and reserved personality. She frequently appears to be detached from her children, her husband, and those around her. As a result of her upbringing in a strict and emotionally repressive household, Betty prioritizes appearances and control over warmth and vulnerability. Therefore, she is seen as a beautiful, composed, and outwardly perfect Ice Queen with an aura of frosty indifference that further isolates her from her loved ones.
You're so profoundly sad.
No, it's just my people are Nordic.
This is likely the reason why, in the fourth season of Mad Men, the costume designer Janie Bryant drastically limited the color palette of Betty's costumes. Aside from the first two holiday episodes, where Betty is dressed in festive colors, her wardrobe throughout the season is practically dominated by various shades of blue. It's also worth noting that this complete wardrobe change makes a lot of sense for her character from a narrative perspective. After marrying a political advisor, Henry Francis, Betty's social role shifted. From a suburban housewife, she became a politician's wife, and with that the social expectations regarding her appearance changed as well. She is now expected to maintain a polished and controlled public image a la Jackie Kennedy.
This is a beautiful suit for Betty for season 4. One of my inspirations would definitely be Jackie O. And that ideal of perfection.
Interestingly, Betty is dressed in shades of blue in scenes when Don comes up in a conversation or when she's directly talking to him. Their relationship this season is even more complicated than before. On the one hand, since the divorce, Betty and Don communicate much more honestly than they did during their marriage. On the other hand, Betty still lives in the house that belongs to Don and is in no rush to find a new place, which causes a lot of tension between them. Co-parenting isn't going too well for them. Their daughter Sally is acting out in response to the changes in the family. And as the season progresses, it becomes clearer that Betty is unable to forgive Don for years of lies and manipulation. She becomes increasingly bitter, cold, and miserable, and these negative emotions are reflected in her clothing. Still, even the biggest ice queens can melt sometimes, which is exactly what we witness in the scene where Betty attends Henry's business dinner. For that occasion, she chose a classic 1960s style icy blue dress with a high neckline embellished with sparkly silver trim that perfectly encapsulates her ice queen persona. However, an evening that started as a pleasant but somewhat dull business meeting quickly triggers Betty's anxiety when she notices Dawn on a date with Bethany. Bethany is a fascinating character to me because she's pretty much a younger version of Betty. Not only are their appearances and fashion styles uncanny, but their polished personalities also appear very similar. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Dr. Faye also often styles her hair like Betty did when she was with Dawn. He clearly has a type. So, seeing her ex-husband flirting with a girl who could pass for a younger version of herself clearly upsets Betty. She assumes Dawn has moved on, is living the life, dates beautiful women, and seems genuinely happy, which we know couldn't be more further from the truth.
I don't see them enough. And when I do, I don't know what to do. And when I drop them off, I feel relieved. And then I miss them.
Meanwhile, Betty herself feels trapped in her new life, which isn't as fulfilling as she initially had hoped. Distressed, she rushes to the ladies' room, and this is when her outfit visually represents her ice queen facade slowly cracking. Her silver jewelry and the sparkly trim on her icy blue dress shimmer like thawing snow, perfectly capturing the emotional meltdown she's experiencing. She even physically wipes off her armpits as if the once rigid, frozen exterior she maintained dissolves, leaving her exposed and fragile. While rewatching Mad Men, I simply couldn't wait for Megan to finally appear in the show. At last, I thought, an array of mini dresses, fishnet stockings, headscarves, and dramatic eye makeup would grace my screen. Yet, to my surprise, I discovered that Megan's first outfits on the show were quite unremarkable. At the beginning of the 4th season, Megan blends into the background dressed like any other secretary at Sterling Cooper Draper Price. Sharp and professional, but not attention-grabbing. In my previous videos, I explained that this visual technique of blending characters with the background is a common tool used by Bryant. It signals the character's lack of importance or voice. Megan, in her clean-lined, brightly colored but subdued outfits, is just another part of the office landscape. Her clothes, though modern and youthful, don't differentiate her from the crowd. But as the season progresses, Megan starts to stand out more visually. Her outfits become more cheerful and vibrant, so that the viewers begin to notice her in a way that Don doesn't, at least not yet. His attitude towards her changes completely in the episode where Mrs. Blankenship tragically passes away in the office and Sally runs away from home to spend more time with her father. To Dawn's and the audience's surprise, this front desk receptionist steps up and handles those difficult situations with composure but also openness and empathy. This situation finally makes Dawn notice Megan, whose look becomes unmistakable. The cheerful mod-inspired clothes she wears are stylish and vibrant, yet still very office appropriate. Megan's style starts to contrast with other women in Dawn's life like Faye, whose business-like suits symbolize maturity, strength, and professionalism, while Megan's softer, colorful outfits suggest warmth, approachability, and youthfulness. Don chooses Megan over practical Dr. Faye during his stay in California. This is also the first time we see Megan dress more casually. However, I couldn't shake up the feeling that this Megan's look with her floral sundress and a headband is a visual callback to this picnic scene where Dawn and Betty pretended to be a picture-perfect family. The only difference is that, at least from Dawn's point of view, they're not pretending anymore. Unlike Betty, Megan doesn't get upset over a spilled milkshake. She's confident, warm, and, if occasion arises, incredibly glamorous. In this scene, Megan goes out with her friend dressed in a sparkly little black dress. It's a defining moment as her appearance starts to resemble her iconic look. She abandons her office-appropriate updos for loose hair, and her makeup shifts from red to nude lips and dramatic eyeliner. The dress, with its diamond-shaped cutout, reveals her cleavage and adds a risque edge, while the shimmering embellishments reflect her vibrant, shining personality. Megan sparkles both in her appearance and her attitude, which is precisely what draws Dawn and the audience to her. SCDP is a progressive and modern advertising agency where the secretaries address their employers informally, using first names instead of Mr., and many male employees are dressed casually. Despite this, Roger Sterling still proudly wears his three-piece suits, Bert Cooper keeps his bow ties, and Pete Campbell continues to wear his suits in a distinctive shade of blue that falls somewhere between navy and dusty blue. Costume designer Janie Bryant even named this color Campbell Blue. According to the show's creator, Mathiew Weiner, this shade of blue was meant to represent, quote, a new professional who was very ambitious and a real opportunist, end quote. Trudy, Pete's wife, also often wears shades of blue in order to visually emphasize that she shares goals with her husband and their unity as a couple. Besides, Bryant is known for using clothing to signify relationships between characters, often dressing those who are closely connected in complementary or matching tones. Not only are Pete and Trudy frequently dressed in matching shades, but Joan and Roger, when they were having an affair in season 1, often wore outfits that subtly harmonized with each other. So, knowing all of this and remembering the secret Peggy and Pete share,
I had your baby, and I gave it away.
can you guess which color Peggy is wearing in the scene where she learns that Pete and Trudy are expecting a baby? Brilliant, isn't it? Throughout this entire season of Mad Men, Peggy is persistently haunted by her past, with memories surfacing at unexpected moments. We see it in a scene when she sleeps with her boyfriend, who remains oblivious to her history and has no idea she previously bore a child out of wedlock. Believing it's her first time, he is unaware of the weight she carries, and Peggy's silent, piercing gaze at the camera speaks volumes about her hidden pain. In the iconic episode The Suitcase, she tells Dawn,
Think about it?
I try not to. But then it comes up out of nowhere. Playgrounds.
She and Pete share wordless, loaded glances in many scenes that remind the audience about their shared secret. But in this scene, the visual echo of Pete's suit's color in Peggy's colored dress really emphasizes the unspoken connection they share. And even though in this season their characters move in different directions, Pete is now focused on his new family, and Peggy is starting a more independent and liberated life, they will forever be bound together. This bond is further highlighted when, at the end of the episode, they share a glance through the glass doors of the office. Though their futures have diverged, the shared history between them continues to resonate, both emotionally and visually. When Jane joins the Sterling Cooper workforce as Don Draper's secretary in season 2, it's hard not to wonder if she's the new Peggy Olson in the making. After all, the scene where Joan shows Jane's around the office closely mirrors the one where Peggy started working at the agency. However, it quickly becomes clear that Jane's life motivations are closer to Joan's than to Peggy's. Early on, Jane's outfits are heavily influenced by Joan's iconic style. Both women favor form-fitting dresses, but Jane's youthful shades like white and light blue set her apart from Joan's dark and mature color palette. But aside from tight dresses and jewel-tone colors, Joan's style is marked by confidence, which Jane lacks. As a result, she often appears to be trying too hard to attract attention, which was Mad Men's costume designer Janie Bryant's intention. She explained that, quote, Jane's costume design was to make her look older than she was, and she wanted to be taken seriously while still being alluring, end quote. As Jane becomes romantically involved with Roger, she stops imitating Joan's look. Instead, she chooses dresses in brighter colors and with shorter hemlines that reflect the shift in fashion trends in the mid-1960s. However, her style evolves the most when she becomes Mrs. Sterling. By marrying Roger, she married into money and was able to start dressing in a much more elevated way. Therefore, we see her wearing more graphic prints, extravagant hats, and furs. Still, even though her wardrobe has become more sophisticated, I can't shake off the feeling that Jane is uncomfortable in this new style, as if she's trying to fit into a role that doesn't quite suit her. Janie Bryant even compared designing Jane's later looks to dressing up a little girl who's playing pretend, admitting that Jane's new polished appearance doesn't fully align with who she truly is. Quote, Jane Sterling's costume design was so much fun to create because it was like designing for a little girl who was playing dress-up. Jane was always trying to keep up with the world around her and the social status she gained by marrying Roger. Her costumes were constantly a little more mature than she was.
Truth, which one is Jane Sterling again? The glamour post with the tan?
There is no denying that Jane Sterling's wardrobe was exceptionally glamorous and at times the most fashion-forward among all the characters in Mad Men. A prime example is this ivory dress with an Egyptian-style beaded collar she wore to the SCDP Christmas party in the 4th season of the show. In an interview for the reality, Janie Bryant revealed how she acquired this dress. I also have the dress that Jane Sterling wore to the Mad Men Christmas party. I actually bought it from a costume house called Roxy. They were selling all of their inventory. A couple years ago, they decided to close shop after being in business forever. I had rented so many of their gorgeous things when I was designing Mad Men. Jane Sterling wore that beaded sleeveless shirt dress, which was also another total goddess dress. I love Peyton List so much. She was my muse for that season. I always loved to dress her in ivory. So I was at Roxy, going through all of their stock because we were buying costumes for Why Women Kill. I found that in their stock and I was like, I have to have this. So I bought it. It was one of my favorite things that I did on Mad Men. Interestingly, before this dress ended up at Roxy, the costume house from where Bryant bought it, not one but 2 copies of it debuted in the 1998 HBO miniseries titled From the Earth to the Moon. But that's not all. In 2014, the dress returned once again to the small screen in the series The Spoils of Babylon. What a journey! In Mad Men, Jane's Christmas look has a double meaning. Firstly, it symbolizes the changing fashion trends in the mid-1960s, as Jane's look was heavily inspired by Elizabeth Taylor's portrayal of Cleopatra in the 1963 film, which became a cultural phenomenon. You see, before Cleopatra, women still wore the 1950s red lips and understated eye makeup. Elizabeth Taylor's heavy eyeliner, dramatic eyeshadow, and false lashes revolutionized the beauty landscape and began a transition toward the iconic eye makeup style of the mod subculture that defined the decade. Cosmetics companies like Revlon capitalized on the Cleopatra craze by releasing beauty products like the Sphinx Pink, which I'm sure a fashion-forward woman like Jane Sterling owned. But her ivory dress also symbolizes her newly acquired wealth and status. The sparkly beaded collar evokes ancient Egyptian regalia and symbolizes wealth and power, 2 things that Jane now fully embodies as Mrs. Sterling. As you see, the costume design in Mad Men's 4th season plays a crucial role in telling the characters' stories. Janie Bryant uses colors and textures to reflect the characters' emotional states. Blue for those who are struggling, sparkly embellishments for those who are thriving, and the bow for those who are somewhere in between. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss my Mad Men Season 5 fashion analysis, where I for sure will be talking about Megan's Zubi Zubi Zoo look. Bye!